You know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men. We will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
Very thankful for 12th man. They've won us games.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
Our skill set worked great together. Like, he was more speed and I was more power, and then we put together, it was like thunder and lightning, you know.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
All right, so number 9 in the SEC preseason poll. Let's talk about it. That's not even in the middle. It's past the middle. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I am David Nuño. He is Olin Buchanan. He's our Heisman Trophy voter, our columnist, and our good friend. Good morning, OB.
Good morning.
What do you think about that 9?
It's fine. I don't have any problem with it at all. I like it. Historically, it seems to me that A&M does better for whatever reason, when less is expected. I probably would have, when I looked at it, I'd say, okay, I don't think I'd have had them any higher than 7 at the most. But so 9, it doesn't bother me. You were 7-6 last year. You got to prove yourself. I'm not buying Oklahoma at 8.
I'm not either. That was the team that I'm like, I look at Oklahoma, and I think they can go 8-4, and that would be a good year based on their schedule.
Yeah,
do you have their schedule?
SEC did them no favors.
No. I mean,
unlike the other Big 12 team.
And you look at Tennessee. I haven't really examined their schedule because A&M's not playing them, but I don't know how I feel about them. They're kind of, to me, Tennessee, A&M, and Auburn are kind of all jumbled up in this like a maybe section for me.
Did you ever notice how every coach last week, everyone talked about how this is like the most talented team, the deepest team. Everyone. That's why I don't even pay attention.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's talking point season. So let's kind of go through these teams and see who's not going to really be at that number. So Georgia, they're going to get in the playoffs, and they're probably going to win it all. All right, if I were to bet on anybody today, but I look at that schedule and I'm like, I don't know, guys.
Georgia has earned it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The benefit of the doubt. But the bottom line is, I keep going back to how good were they? Not good. How vulnerable did they appear?
Many times.
When Bowers and McConkey were hurt.
Yep.
And now they're gone, plus guys like Cedric Van Pran, that center that had been there, a stalwart for all those years. And now, do I think they're better positioned to replenish their roster and their starting lineup than anybody else? Yeah. So I'll give them that. But even Georgia, there's certain things you look at and go, okay. But the team, I think, I have my questions about Texas. I do think they're going to win at least 9 games.
Yep.
But, the team that I think might be underrated on there is Ole Miss.
Oh, Ole Miss. Okay, yeah.
Alabama, they could have lost to A&M. They could have lost to they should have lost to Auburn. Now I know the quarterback issue, but they damn near lost to South Florida. I mean, they were vulnerable last year.
Sure,
Played well when they had to, but take the guys off that team. Like Dallas Turner and some of the other guys, and
you wonder.
And you said, are they going to be? And Nick Saban, are they going to be as good as they were last year? Maybe, but there's reason to be skeptical.
So okay, Texas, by the way, I can make the argument that they go 11-1. 9-3, 8-4. Like I can see scenarios in all of them. And here's my main reason.
Tell me.
And this goes for Oklahoma as well. You're not going against Big 12 defenses in defensive lines. You're not going against Big 12 offensive lines. Mm-hmm. You're just not.
You're not.
And you lost some guys off your defensive line.
Oh,
yes, I
two
know
big ones.
Right? So they replenish. But it is different in the SEC. It is, and until you live it, you don't know it.
Plus, I know they got like a defensive lineman. I think he's from Louisville come in, and it doesn't mean that the next guy is as good as the last guy.
Right.
So is this
guy? He could be better, but it doesn't mean.
In this case, I don't think so.
Sure.
But yeah, and so you're stepping up, and we've talked about this. You got a advantageous officials call error to beat UH.
Yep.
You were in the fourth quarter, tied 10-10 with Wyoming with a backup quarterback.
Yep.
Kansas State's on the 4-yard line, could have kicked a field goal to force overtime. They went for it, didn't make it. They were 4 yards away from losing.
Yep.
I think TCU was a toss-up.
Yep.
There was another one that I'm not even thinking of.
And I know they had their blowout games.
Yeah, they did.
They did. But, again, I'm sorry to tell you that if your numbers are inflated defensively, and by the way, they had an awesome defense, but your numbers have to be inflated.
Not pass defense, they didn't.
No, you're right about that. They have to be inflated if you're going against the Iowa State offensive line and the U of H offensive line.
Yeah, just look at how many players are offensive linemen from the Big 12 were taken in the draft. Now, I know, there are guys that may be really good that aren't even in the draft yet, right? But just look over the 5 years, how many, and it's as opposed to SEC, and it's just –
and this is not because of their Texas. In this assessment, I'm just telling you, any team that comes from the Big 12 that – look, in the SEC, you're going to have these tight games regardless, right? That's going to happen. But I am a huge believer. The reason A&M was so good in their first year of the SEC was 2 reasons. They had a quarterback who was freaking a magician, and Mike Evans and Ryan Swope were huge, right? They were huge in those games.
Well, they had what, 3 or 4 eventual number 1 draft choices or first round draft choices in the offensive line,
right?
And their defense was okay.
Now, the Texas does have an excellent offensive line.
Yeah.
They do, and they'll have that going for them. But this is not about Texas because it's Texas. This is more about until you live life in the hood, you don't know what it's like.
Right.
You just don't know. Like, you can say you know, but you got to live through it.
Yeah. Swimming across the pool is a lot different than swimming in open water, right?
Buddy, don't I know?
Yeah, I know you know. So that's why I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's sharks out there in the open water.
But, and let me just add to it because I'm a nerd. You also don't know where you are. In a pool, you look down, you see the little line. Okay, I'm almost done. Yeah. In the ocean, you don't know. In the SEC, it's like the ocean.
It's the ocean. So, you know what, David, though, I can look at every one of those top 7, 8 teams, every one on, and I can give you a reason to have some questions. We talked about Georgia. We've talked about Texas. Alabama, again, you're going to take Dallas Turner off that defense and some of the other guys that they've lost. Caleb Downs.
Yep.
That offensive tackle who is, I think, a top 10 pick. You're going to be Nick Saban. You're going to be better. Now, Ole Miss, maybe not so much. They look like they've gotten better. LSU, I'm going to lose, those two receivers and the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and say I'm magically going to be so much better on defense.
Yeah, but that LSU schedule.
Yeah, it's advantageous.
I think they're going to destroy USC to start the year.
Look, and UCLA's easier.
Right?
Yeah.
Nichols, South Carolina. And then you get to UCLA. Then you get to South Alabama. At that point, you're what? 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, they're probably going to
4,
win 10 games just
6,
on the schedule. Remember I said a few months ago how easy the schedule was, and somebody from one of our Louisiana guys called and said, "Oh, it's a tough schedule." So what are you talking about? When USC is the team that
now they have had their struggles to start a season against.
They haven't won a season opener in like 5 years.
Yeah. And look, 2 of those losses came to a Florida State team that we came out to be a pretty good team, right? So that's 2 of the losses. Who was the other one? Was it UCLA, the other one that I can remember? Didn't they start off with UCLA a few years back?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
UCLA.
So
yeah, is that the one where Orgeron was telling some guy to come out and he'd
in his sissy blue shirt?
Yeah.
So by October 19th, their only real difficult, again, based on what we know today, is Ole Miss, and that's going to be very difficult, even though they're hosting them. Then Arkansas, then the A&M game, right? Then Alabama. So it Florida, Vandy, Oklahoma.
You're just asking for at least 9 wins.
Do they have Georgia on their schedule? No. They do have Alabama on their schedule. They don't have Texas on their schedule. They do have Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, beyond. Yeah, like I said, there's 9 wins there, and then Missouri, the defense. The defense is a – plus, you know what? Remember,
but they have an easy schedule.
They have the easiest schedule in the SEC based on conference schedule based on last year's.
But they lost guys on defense.
Yeah, some good ones, and that wasn't a great defense anyway. And their coordinator. I don't know who they lost in the offensive line, but they still got Luther Burden and Theo Weiss and Brady Cook. But they did lose that running back that was so good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying that you could look at every team in the top 8 and say, here's a reason to question them.
And if you look at the top 8, like what would that mean if there was a SEC West for A&M as the 9th team? Because you got Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, so they would be 5th in the SEC West.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with A&M being ranked
in the middle
where
of the
they
pack.
are.
Yeah.
In fact, I kind of like it. I think nothing like a surprise attack. And I've said it before, every year there's a surprise team in the nation.
Or two.
Or two. And twice it's been A&M, and maybe it'll be A&M again. It certainly could be.
By the way, these media polls, who cares?
You look around. Look, I'm in the media.
I've seen those dudes.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. If the guy, the mentally challenged guy from Alabama.
If he's voting,
of course he's voting.
I mean, come on, guys. Let's be serious. At least graduate from elementary. At least.
Luke Evangelist got to vote, so that tells you everything you need to know right there.
See, the mentally challenged guy from Alabama and the mentally challenged guy from Texas.
Vanderbilt getting a vote for first place again. That happens every.
They got it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I mean, come on,
two. Carson
votes.
selling. There's two.
Yeah, 2 votes for. It's like you're just why just again. It's why it doesn't matter. Like I feel like for the Heisman, don't you have to apply and they have to?
No, they have to. They come to you.
Oh, okay.
But you have to have some. You have to have some credentials,
right? They got to vet you. They got to make sure. Okay, I'm sure not every Heisman Trophy voter has watched every snap of every candidate. I'm sure of that. But I feel like for the most part, they watch enough to be able to make a dedicated. Oh, you're one, by the way.
I am. Yeah. Hey, by the way, let me ask you something. Since you just
I'm
brought
gonna
that
answer
up.
something. Yeah.
Where would you, in a preseason top 5 of Heisman contenders, where would you put Quinn Ewers?
He'd probably be at the bottom of my 5 based on the hype, but I don't know if he let's go through some candidates. All right.
Right.
Jalen Milroe's a candidate, right?
Milroe's a candidate. I'd put Ewers over Milroe.
Yeah. Carson Beck is a candidate.
Yeah, and I think I'd put Ewers over Beck.
Okay. Give me some other examples of.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
I would have to go back because there was somebody I was thinking of just. Yeah, they
Shador Sanders.
No, come on. That's like the guys voting for Vanderbilt. Sorry.
The running back from Ole Miss that transferred to Ohio State, Quinshon Judkins. He could be one.
Quinshon Judkins, absolutely, yeah.
You know. So I'd have to, go back, and I'll be doing this, but the point is, do some homework. This is what I'm, and then remove all allegiances, because if you're honored enough to be able to vote, you have to separate your personal feelings from professional. You've done that, so
I'm going to read you some of the names.
I'm not so sure of yours. Luther Burden.
Well, if they're 11-1, 12-0, 10-2, 9-3, he's going to be in that group.
Right.
Carson Beck is on there, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milroe. Will Howard, Jackson Dart, no, Nico's on
you know they'll make one. Riley Leonard.
If
you're the quarterback of Notre Dame, you're obvious.
Well, we're going to talk Notre Dame on the show in a little bit, and I looked at their schedule too. That's a playoff team, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Cam Ward is on this list that I'm looking at from
Miami.
Yeah, the Miami.
Transferred from Washington State. Where, let me say it again. I don't know. He may be a great quarterback, but everybody in the Pac-12 put up big numbers. So are you telling me you had 8 or 9 elite quarterbacks, or did you have a whole conference full of crappy defensive backs?
Well, according to Covers.com, both Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers are your top 2 odds to win the Heisman this year.
Yeah. See, that's kind of where I was going at.
Yeah.
And I think I would put Ewers first.
Yeah.
I think I would. I mean, going in,
yeah. But Nico's getting a lot of love. I'm looking at several other sites with Nico.
To that I say, why?
I haven't, yes. I don't get it.
Because he had a good game against Vandy?
Yes, that's why.
So Nick Starkel should, after that Wake Forest game, or New Mexico, should have been a Heisman contender.
Hey, if you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us, 979-693-1150. We're going to answer that on the Boss Firearms hotline. You got a smile on it right now.
No, I felt bad. I got on that tangent.
Yeah.
And I know we got to get to Boss here in a minute, but I kind of interrupted where you were going.
I don't even remember, but it's good. I like that. But that's a better show when we just have conversations. Like when you're at a bar talking to your buddy, you don't come with an agenda. You're just talking. We're big bar guys.
Well, yeah, I know I am.
Yeah.
I'm an alcoholic. The bar has been raised.
The bar has been raised. Look at you, buddy. By the way, the Boss Firearms hotline, Boss Firearms, your local experts. They buy used guns, ammo, and accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com to start earning money like a
boss.
Like a boss. All right, let's go around let's give away coffee. Can we do that?
Yeah, do that.
What number? I got it. 9.
For the wins, the number of wins the Texas Longhorns are going to get this year. 9.
And what number A&M came in on the SEC
and
poll.
that.
The ninth person to text in coffee to 979-693-1150. Bag of fresh TexAgs coffee. All right, should we say hi to Nick?
Let's do.
Let's go behind the glass and say hi to
Savage.
the Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How are you, man?
I do want to say I want to have Luke's back here. I also filled out the SEC media poll, so I fall into the same category.
Did you do Vandy?
I did not know.
Okay.
I did not vote for South Carolina either. I don't know if you saw that, but they got a first place vote as well, which is silly. But anyways, my top 2, I believe I picked Georgia and Missouri in the SEC championship game. But I did want to look at, according to that SEC media poll, like the strength of schedule for A&M and Texas comparatively, because we talked a lot about that. So A&M plays.
I've got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Well, A&M plays number 2, 6, 5, and 10. So 4 teams in the top 10 in the SEC media poll, and then 4 teams outside of it, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Texas plays 3 teams in the top 10, 1, 8, and 9. Also play 11, 12, 14, 15, and 16. That's the bottom 3 teams. And last season, those 3 teams went a combined 11 and 25.
Yeah, if you look at last year, I'm talking about just SEC games, just conference games. If you look at if you take the combined record or winning percentage of teams, what they did last year, Texas has the second easiest, if that's the word you want, least challenging conference schedule, with their opponents were a combined 524 winning percentage. Only Missouri at 504 had it easier. A&M would rank 12th. So with 574, the hardest schedule based on last year is going to be played by the Oklahoma Sooners, where their opponents, conference opponents, were 723. The 723 winning percentage.
Wow.
So how is it that the 2 teams from the Big 12 get in, and one of them has the most difficult conference schedule, one of them has the next to easiest conference?
I wonder why.
You don't think Sankey's middle name is BB, do you?
No, but they're related. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News. Actually, I like Sankey. I don't like that Texas is in the conference, but I like Sankey. I do. Sorry. I know people like to call him Snaky on our boards and get mad. I don't know. I like the dude. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson, Mr. Stein, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm great, man.
All right. It's a Monday. It's good. I'm happy.
Well, we got a text from Matt in San Antonio saying, to go a different route, which team do you think will be the second to last team? Vandy is too easy to pick as dead last, but I'm not sure if Arkansas or Mississippi State will finish second worst.
Ooh, good question. Maybe South Carolina. I would say Mississippi State.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. Also, A&M struggled on the road the last few years. You know that, right?
I do know that.
As of right now, at least as of today, no team that they play on the road is ranked.
Yeah, well, there's new...
And maybe Auburn will be ranked when you go there.
I don't mean to keep going back at the previous coach, but don't you know how when you keep doing the same thing, right? And getting the same result and wanting different results? I wonder at what point or why at some point didn't they say, we need to change this up. Let's not go on Thursday to these road games.
They're not. They're not, luckily. But the fact is, not one as of today, road game against a ranked team.
Right. You got the Florida Gators.
Which is going to be hard. I think that's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. Okay. You got the Arkansas game in Dallas, neutral site game, so that won't count towards the record.
You go to South Carolina.
You
go to Mississippi State and Auburn.
Auburn might be ranked when you get there.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I just think that Auburn is going to be that team that if they're going to be good enough to beat you if you're not ready to play. Yeah. So why is Auburn going to be so much better? Because they got some highly rated freshman receivers. Yeah. I know Cam Coleman, we would have liked for him to have him. But I don't want to ever put too much in on, well, that's the guy from Penn State. So that's a veteran guy. So I would be more concerned about him because there is a difference in a growth period for freshmen.
Sure. Yeah, those guys are.
But it's still, like you said, Peyton Thorne's still throwing to him.
Peyton Thorne, I think he's not the same Peyton Thorne that A&M took on. He ain't that good, though. At least he wasn't last year, right? Like, he got better after the A&M game, for sure. Like, you can't get worse than he was in that game.
Remember the one guy?
They brought Robbie Ashford in for a couple plays. Remember that? Like,
where's Robbie Ashford now? I saw that the other day. He's
South Carolina.
Yeah. And they're saying, hey, look how much better we're going to be on quarterback. Because Robbie Ashford's coming in?
Hey, we'll get back to Carson here in a minute because there's another text message I want to get into. Right now, career opportunities at the Association of Former Students. Who wants to get a job right here, right across the street from TexAgs? You can go do that at the Association of Former Students. Who wants to move to Aggieland and get an opportunity to get a job? Association of Former Students are hiring professionals all over the place. Fundraising, former student programs, marketing, you name it. They've got a lot of great people over there. They are the nation's premier alumni association and the oldest organization serving A&M in support of that Aggie network that play a part in every Aggie story from Howdy to here. Don't miss opportunities to help out the association with Howdy Socials, Aggie Ream Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie network. So if you are interested in joining a team or sharing with someone that would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/association jobs to apply and get more information on each position. It is the Association of Former Students. I love your playlist, OB. It's really good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, this is one's my favorites.
I know.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he said. Yeah, your Spanish is good.
Yeah.
Bob Bonnie, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse.
Yeah, the Warehouse. See, I got to think about which one you want me to. So many people love us, you know.
Yeah, they do.
The
they
CC Creations, and then David Gardner's Jewelers, and Boss Firearms, and
like
Rollo Insurance.
Rollo. The people right there. Rollo Insurance Studio right here.
Bunch of bosses in that.
A bunch of bosses there.
It's like the whole Board of Regents.
That's right. That's right. Let's go to Carson Stein at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Madden in Houston had a commentary that I'd like for you to read for us, please.
Yes, sir. So Madden in Houston texted, yeah, but Texas beat Alabama last year, so that means they'll win every SEC game.
Of course it does. And they beat Georgia in a meaningless bowl game like 5 years ago. So, hey, look, this SEC thing's going to be easy.
Look, here, several things can be true. Texas does have a lot of talent. Texas is going to be good this year. Texas did beat Alabama by double digits.
Yeah.
Texas also played a different Alabama team, in my opinion, based on what the season played out to be. Had they played Alabama a month later, I think the game is different. I don't know if the result's different, but the game is different.
Well, because the coaches, first of all, Tommy Rees may have been the most overrated offensive coordinator ever.
Oh, my gosh.
But, again, the coach, when they finally said, okay, Milroe's our guy, and we have to do what he's good at. And if anybody understands the difference there, it should be Texas fans that, keep watching the replay of the 2005 national championship game over and over and over again. Yep. Texas, or Vince Young and Texas didn't explode until Mac Brown finally said, look, this is our quarterback. This is what he does well. This is what he doesn't do well. Let's gear the offense for what he does well. Hello, Dennis Francione.
Right.
Find your quarterback and find what he does well, let him do it. And finally, Alabama did that, and with Milroe, and they got better.
They got better, 100%.
Look, Texas is good. Texas is going to be good. Texas enters the season as national championship contender. We acknowledge that. I'm just saying that I'm skeptical. They're as good as they were last year, and they're going to be in a more difficult league. So those few games where either the officials bail you out or your opponent just isn't as talented as you are, and the difference is significant, those games where you don't show up, the chances of you losing that game just in this season multiply, because the SEC is much less forgiving than the Big 12.
So
and you don't run it.
Talk show hosts, myself in particular here, we have these talking points in our head that we just double and triple down on throughout like an off season, whatever. And what I've said probably too many times over the last 10 days is I believe most people are using Jimbo goggles when evaluating this particular A&M team.
Well, I agree with that.
Right? And it's so unfair for multiple reasons. And by the way, I understand like A&M over the last 30 years has been, since 1998, has not been the team, has not reached the level consistently that we expect. That's a fact, okay? Doesn't matter who the coach is. Consistently, we have not reached the level that we expect here. But that being said, half the roster is different, but most of your starters are back, and you have a different head coach with a different philosophy, and he checks the boxes on things that the prior regime didn't do. For those reasons alone, those close games that we saw the last 3 years with all the chaos, every bit of chaos that we saw the last 3 years, different quarterbacks, dysfunction in the locker room, not getting a playoff quickly, not having a special teams coordinator, all the things you want to talk about. Everything is different from those mistakes. Now, will new mistakes happen? Sure. Every coach has their issues. But it's different. So it's not fair to evaluate A&M based on Jimbo's, using Jimbo goggles on Coach Elko. Now, it is fair to be like, I don't know, because we both don't know.
I'm a believer in Elko. Let me put that first and foremost. But I'm going to ask you this. What new coach, and I know sometimes there are those, but not what new coach doesn't go into his next job with good credentials? Because people say, hey, this is why we hired him, right? No one ever hires a coach because he had a bad year at the previous point.
Yeah.
So, what I'm getting at is, so I can understand.
In a way, A&M hired Jimbo after a bad year, right? But he was Jimbo. He had a championship resume.
And his quarterback had gotten hurt in the very first game.
There's a theme there.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But what I'm going with that is simply that if I'm giving the people that put A&M 9th a break because I'm saying, hey, Jimbo. Jimbo's gone, but what do we really know about Elko?
We know his teams play super hard, and they scheme well, and they prepare well for teams, and they're going to have an excellent defense.
But the very same things we say about Texas going into the SEC, you could say about Elko. Yeah, he put together good teams, but is he going to be facing the caliber of teams every week that he faced in the ACC? No, it's going to be a more difficult challenge.
But like Sark, we give him credit as a coordinator in the SEC, right? Like I think
I'm just saying overall.
Sure, overall, yeah. But I'm saying I think most people are like, Sark can call plays. He gets the SEC from an offensive standpoint. We give him that credit, and I'd say we can give Mike Elko defensive street cred in the SEC.
Well, I just said first of all,
I
believe
I'm
him.
not arguing with you. I'm just making the commentary.
Just making the point why somebody might pick A&M 9th and not take off the Jimbo glasses that you're talking about.
I'm not predicting A&M to win the SEC. Is there a tentacle? I don't know what the word I'm looking here. A timeline, right?
An avenue
that you could be like, you know what? If this plays out this way, they could be playing in the SEC championship game.
Oh yeah. I mean, there is. I mean, like I said, there's always a surprise team.
So I got a method to my madness.
We can discuss this on September 1st.
But through 1 through 9 on that list, can you make that argument for almost every team 1 through 9? Does it go that deep? I guess is my question. Put up the list if you have that list, Nick. I thought you had it earlier.
Yeah, he did. Probably the one team that I'm of that top 9 that I really am skeptical about is Oklahoma.
There we go. Yeah, Oklahoma. Okay, can you make an argument for Tennessee to make it to the SEC championship game?
I guess if I'm leaving on a jet plane is really what they say he is, maybe. Because if you got a great quarterback, that's the first step. And A&M, I think, has a quarterback that's great. But we talked about Oklahoma and how difficult their conference schedule is going to be. So, and the questions they have, their offensive line. Look at who they lost in the draft. Are the next guys going to be as good?
Yep.
You look at A&M and you say, is the next guy going to be as good as the guy they lost? I'm going to say, no, the next starting linebacker is not going to be as good as Edgerrin Cooper. And you got to I don't see a receiver as good as Anaya Smith, or maybe Evan Stewart. But you know what? I see more productive guys than Evan Stewart. And I think the guy you brought in on the defensive line is better than the guy you lost.
Oh, and by the way, I'm glad you said that. We'll hit that on the other side of the break. We're going to discuss that here. But right now, we're talking QC Kinetics. If you've got arthritic joint pain and it's keeping you from doing what you love to do, stop, guys. Go have fun by going to see the good people there at QC Kinetics. You shouldn't have bone-on-bone pain in your knees, your hips, your backs, or your shoulder. There's exciting new cellular therapies that get you lasting relief, and that's what they do there at QC Kinetics. They make patients like you happy every single day. They are the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine, right? They're talking about cutting-edge treatments that'll make you feel better. Your own body's healing properties are helping your joints get healthy once again so you can move and do what you love to do, which is throw the ball in the front yard, climb trees, whatever you love to do. Go out and enjoy life. They've helped out a lot of people here in the Brazos Valley, and they've done it all over the place, right? They're just taking care of people with chronic joint pain from arthritis or an injury. All you need to know is you don't have to do steroids, you don't have to do surgery, and you don't have to do pain pills. You have another option now. QC Kinetics can treat the pain, enhance your joints and your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. The future of medicine is here. I want you to call the good people at QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That's 979-452-6000. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Obi, I'm going to just tell you a couple things about the first, second, and third team in the SEC.
Okay.
Nobody on A&M made the first team.
Okay.
Okay. A couple guys on the second team, Shamar Turner and Nick Scorton.
All right.
Okay. And third team, Trey Zune. Props to Trey for making that. So that's nice. The one that I struggle with, do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
Okay.
But I could probably guess.
It's not a shot. It's not a shot. Okay. But I don't personally believe I've seen Walter Nolan play at a first team level.
Right.
I think he is first team level potential, right? I think, and he hasn't done it in the SEC, but I think Nick Scorton has shown first team level play. That's my commentary. I think we have seen more from Nick Scorton to say he should be first team, even in the SEC, than we've seen maybe from the other.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And that doesn't mean that I think at the end of the season, I will not be surprised if Walter Nolan's first team, but I think Nick Scorton will be there too.
Yeah, just the key for Walter is attitude and desire to be good. And you know what? Here's what they might just tell him: look, this is your year to prove you're a first round draft choice, and this is your money year. And if you're motivated by money, then how could you not be motivated to play your best each and every game? But we're expecting a lot.
Yeah.
You're expecting a lot. Look, I think A&M upgraded with that trade, quote trade. And we talk about Evan Stewart, but in fact, what does Steve McGee like to say? The best ability is availability.
Yeah. Well, look,
and a guy who led up. Oh, I don't want to say somebody wasn't.
But some
hurt.
of that, though, like to be fair to the players here, I know we all were pro A&M and everything, but to be, if there's not accountability, people are going to do what they want to do, right? And that's what did we hear from Trey Zune? What did we hear? Like, if you allow a certain behavior, it's on you.
Yeah.
If I allow my kids to leave their room messy and not wash their dishes, and then I get mad at them for not doing it, and I don't enforce the punishment, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
There has to be a level of accountability, and I say it all the time, and people laugh because the way I'm wired. There's a standard, and if you don't meet it, you better reach the standard, or you have to make changes. And if players are allowed to do what they want, then they're going to do what they want, and especially in this era where you can transfer and get paid.
You're absolutely right.
So that's why I don't know if we know the real version of Walter or the real version of Evan. I don't know.
Right. We don't, because we're not in the room.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard from people that are.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. But we also saw with our eyes, at least,
right.
Evan make amazing plays and then take plays off.
The thing that I can't ever figure out is watching Evan warming up against Ole Miss and looking fine, and then suddenly not playing.
Yep.
And then the thing about Walter that really stands out to me is him. When they took him off the field at Tennessee, I thought, is he ever going to walk again?
Yeah.
And then I heard he was walking around and laughing and everything on the plane back. So, those are kind of things that you go, okay, what's going on with
if I remember correctly, didn't we watch that play happen coming down from the press box? We're having it, and we're like, oh, this is bad.
This is bad. They're bringing out the cart. That's never good when they're bringing out the cart.
A game that A&M had a chance to win, by the way.
Yeah. So those are just things that.
But that offense wasn't moving that day.
No,
How many times can we say that, Bobby Petrino or not? Like over the last 3 years,
Bobby Petrino was nothing but a hood ornament. I mean, it's a fancy hood ornament, but it's still a hood ornament.
The offense was better than the year prior. It was. I think a whole touchdown better, right? Weren't we scoring 29 points a game last year to the 22 the year prior?
I don't know. They could have scored even more if you could just figure out quarterback sneak. You run a quarterback sneak a couple times, you probably beat Tennessee.
Hey, after you wrote that column, they did it.
It was actually just a question I asked, but still, I mean, right? Against Tennessee, twice they were like inside they're in scoring position, right? Twice on 4th and 1, and neither time, I think it was twice 4th and 1. I may be off on that. I know one was 4th and 1, and neither time they picked it up. Just run a quarterback sneak.
Please just run a quarterback sneak. Please. And they did. They started to afterwards. But offensively, They had a ways to go, but you also can't expect a lot offensively when you keep losing quarterbacks. Like that's just
That's true.
That's the reality of any team. And that's why when people always give me a hard time for the way the last 3 years have gone for A&M, we deserve a lot of the hard times.
Because how many times was Jimbo Fisher asked, do you still believe, you have faith or whatever, trust in Adazio? And every time he's absolutely. Well, what do you got to see to make you think this, for whatever reason, this guy's just not getting it done? How many quarterbacks got to get hurt? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. That's what. How many? How many quarterbacks must be hospitalized before Jimbo says I should make a change?
Have you ever done the math? I know we've gone through it, but how many quarterbacks have and then added the games that they've missed? There's a lot of numbers.
I know it's crazy. I mean, after Kellen, yeah.
I always bring this up because I think
it's like 7 changes.
It's part of the story. I don't believe. I'm fairly sure that we all agree here that Zach Calzado would not have played in the bowl game. Zach Calzado also would have probably, if there was another option behind him, would have probably been taken out.
Alabama.
Right? So, 21, 2 quarterbacks, right? Do we
right.
Is it fair to say Calzado was hurt that year?
Yeah.
Okay. The next year was 2 again, right? It was Haynes and Max. Am I right about that?
And Max did okay. And then last year was 3.
Connor, Max.
Max got hurt.
Why am I laughing? I don't mean it like
a actually 4 played.
And then Jalen Henderson in the bowl game.
No, and then you're just talking about when they got hurt.
Yeah. So you're not gonna win a lot of games when you have a revolving door quarterback for whatever the reason is. You're not.
It's like watching MASH.
That show never watched.
Okay. Well, people got hurt in that show.
Yeah, people did. I know it's very popular. I know it would come on right after wrestling, like when I was a kid on Channel 39.
The movie was amazing.
That's the one.
The movie was amazing.
Same actors in the movie and the show, right? Or some of the some.
No.
It's not even, no?
Only Gary Burkhoff who played Radar. Everybody else was different.
Let's hit a break here.
Okay.
Chance McClain at Heritage Films. That's my buddy. I say that all the time because he is a dear friend. I saw him last week. He's just doing some great stuff with Heritage Films. Hopefully you guys can go check it out. Go check out the website, yourheritagefilm.com. But let me just give you the particulars. You get a documentary done for your family. At the end of the day, that is the reason you call them up. Let's get a story done about our family, the way we got this house, the way we got this family business, this family ranch, whatever it may be. Whatever your family story is, how your dad met your mom. It's a great way to honor people for anniversaries, for celebrations, for big milestones in life, just to celebrate your family, right? It is an awesome thing to do, and that is yourheritagefilm.com is the website. You can also do a YearFlix, a 20-minute Q&A style video reserved for the youngers that basically just is a benchmark video, finding out where your kids are at a certain point of their life, and then followed up a couple years later with the next part of it, right? Like it is a cool thing to do for freshman year to sophomore year, then you do when they get their Aggie ring and beyond. Awesome stuff done by Chance McClain. The website, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the angry elephant news and Social Center. Carson, the Steiniac. I don't know, sometimes we add the axe to people's names for no reason at all.
We got a text from Edward in Austin saying Jimbo stumbled into 7 wins last season without his QB1 with a harder schedule and getting fired midseason. Elko should be able to easily win 1 to 3 more games.
Well, I would think as of today, I'd pick 8-4, and then say because I think they're going to be better than they were last year. But but you got to prove the rest.
So let me just throw you a couple things if they bear out to be proved.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Wigman is healthy for the entire season.
Okay.
And gives you basically what he's done through his 8 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
He gives you those kind of numbers. What does that do to that 8-4 record?
I think first of all, it takes you up to at least 9-3.
Okay.
Because if he's not hurt, I've got a good feeling that the offensive line's playing better.
Yep.
So
a healthy Connor Wigman who gives you those numbers as a 9-3 team at minimum.
At minimum, and you give me what he's done. You're saying what he's done before. If it does well, that translates. If you take his numbers over 8 games and put it on, that translates to something like I looked this up before. Something like 3,000 yards passing. It's like and I'm going off the top of my head here. It's like 28 touchdowns, and it would be like 6 interceptions.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take that right now.
Okay. Follow up. Defensively, A&M is a top 5 defense in the SEC.
Okay.
With what I just told you about Connor, 9-3 or higher.
9-3 or higher. Yeah. I think you're probably 10-2 if you got a top 5 defense. What's the top 5 defense in the SEC look like nationally? Top 20, top 10, top 15. So you give me that with a quarterback that's throwing for 3,000 yards and doing it, then and only 6 interceptions. Yeah, so you're not turning the ball over and you're playing great defense. You're probably winning 10 games.
Along with those defensive, if I were to tell you the secondary, all aspects of the secondary, I'm just going to use the term pretty darn good. Okay, I'm not saying great.
Well, you're not going to be top 5 in the SEC if you're not.
Well, I mean, if you get to the quarterback, what were they in the SEC last year?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I know they give up a lot of yards.
Yeah, look, they're going to be better in the secondary than they were last year. They're going to be better at corner because, quite frankly, the bar is really low.
Yeah.
And I think they brought in guys, and I think they're going to be coached better. I'm going out on a limb here. Okay, I could be dead wrong, but I'm making myself believe that the cornerbacks are going to actually turn and look for the ball.
All right, we got a minute left. What if this happens? Right, we should play a what if game soon.
All right.
What if A&M beats Notre Dame, and they go on the road and they dismantle Florida?
Well, just beat Florida on the road.
Double digit, 10 points.
Yeah.
What if? This is a what if.
Oh, you beat Notre Dame
that year?
If you're 3-0 to start, you're probably no worse than ranked 15th in the country going into the 4th game. If those 2 things happen,
4th game would be Arkansas.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you're no worse than maybe 5th game's Arkansas. Yeah, 5th game's Arkansas. I think you got another mail-in win in the 4th game.
I believe it's Bowling Green.
Yeah, so you're
BG.
So you're 4-0, and you're no worse than number 15 in the country if that happens. If you beat Notre Dame, you probably show up in the top 15.
Can I just have a season of football where I talk about good things?
Yes,
it'd be great.
Yeah,
great. I haven't been here.
Let's just see if there's a win on September 1st.
Your dear friend Ryan Fowler next on TexAgs Radio.
All right.
All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So, I enjoy going to SEC Media Days because you get to talk to people that you don't see often. One of those is Ryan Fowler, who is joining us here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. He covers Alabama. We won't hold that against him. But we have a mutual friend that does our show. And you could tell him I said this. I love Aaron Torres, all right? I love him. He's great guest. He's whiny. My God, is he whiny. I mean, you're too nice of a guy to say it, but, like, he texts us both and, like, David won't put me on during SEC Media Days. Yeah, because I got everybody in the SEC here, bro. I love you, but just wait a week.
Well, and plus Thursday is Texas A&M Day, right? I mean, you guys were the only thing that kept some of the crowd there, right? I mean, Auburn and Kentucky and Arkansas is not going to be able to do it, okay? So, yeah, I understand. I get it. But Torres texts me on Thursday morning. It's like, hey, man, because we don't even text like an interview. I just say Ricky, and that means Ricky Henderson, which is my first spot out of the gate. He's the leadoff hitter at 2:15. So I simply just say Ricky ? And so he did me that Thursday morning. He's like, hey, are we doing Ricky today? Yes, we are. So, he did not say y'all's name. He just said there was a certain radio station in an SEC city that put me off for another week.
Yeah.
And so his feelings were hurt a little bit, but I think you'll be okay.
Commissioner Sankey or Aaron Torres? Commissioner Sankey. Come on, guys, right? Cole Kublik. I love you, Aaron, but you weren't there. These guys were there.
Torres. I'll take Torres over Cole. Cole's an Auburn guy, man. I mean, you got to remember, you got to have your priorities. I mean, Torres is fair and balanced. Cole's an Auburn guy. He could be fair and balanced. I'm just kidding, but it is good to see you guys. And I almost want to I was telling Billy this earlier at SEC Media Days. I almost want to apologize to you guys because I never realized how much y'all had to put up with for these Texas Longhorns.
Mm-hmm.
They are okay. What have they been in the conference? 2 weeks? A week and a half?
Yeah.
I know I'm exaggerating, right? I mean, what is it? 22nd day of the month? 3 weeks. 3 weeks a day. I'm from Alabama, even though I can do math. But so they've been in 3 weeks. They just have an arrogance about them that is like, how do you guys not just put your hands around their throat and just like suffocate them? Living with that bunch is unique. It is. We're going to have a test in the SEC. How long can they actually be able to manage this? They already they don't walk quietly through any door, right? They're walking into the neighborhood. It's like they're almost destroyed this neighborhood and this neighborhood, but then they come to this neighborhood and they have the same ego that they had in that other neighborhood. And it's like they come in and making demands and we're the Super Bowl, but it's this arrogance that's the trophy cabinet really doesn't justify.
But what they'll tell you, Ryan, is to be like, everybody's talking about us. Like they'll respond, right? Like Ryan Fowler goes on an A&M show and brings it up within a few seconds. But it's because I feel most teams in the SEC kind of just understand we're kind of in it together, even though we hate each other, right?
Right. It's kind of like that brother syndrome, right? You truly don't like your little brother, but you better not somebody pick on him because it's causing a fight, right?
But Texas wants to be like, no. We're Texas. You guys are the SEC. You're blessed to have us in here.
Yes. And it's like, we're just glad to be here. Oklahoma made like this humble entry in. Texas, not so much. I got a Texas guy who calls my radio show in Tuscaloosa. Okay. And he calls in by starting, Texas is living rent-free in your head. Okay. He said, you focus way too much on Texas. I said, I'm not calling an Austin radio sports show. You are listening to a Tuscaloosa-based sports radio show. I mean, and I'm sitting here going, no. I mean, but it's just these Texas fans. I mean, they're a unique bunch, man. I mean, they are quite killer, man. It's fun to see their arrogance and to understand that really they dissolved two conferences that they've been a part of.
AT's listening, so I feel like I got to give him a little bit of props, right?
Oh, he does.
I think
I saw you texting, so Torres is listening.
Yeah,
okay.
This is
hey,
what
Torres,
I'll give AT.
Good morning.
AT is such a well-versed sports guy that you can talk about any topic you throw at him, and he'll have a good take, right? AT is great at that. What AT doesn't have is good cell phone service because he's always calling me from a freeway. Every time. I don't know if he lives out there in Los Angeles under, I-5, but he's always by a freeway. But his takes and his knowledge, second to somebody, but he's top notch.
And he's got a beautiful dog. He's got a beautiful dog. Have you ever seen his dog?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, so normally he calls me when he's walking his dog. So I'm providing entertainment as he walks the dog throughout LA. Rather than, stepping over the drug addicts or the homeless folks, I'm entertaining him with, his cell phone call. He'll call me walking the dog, and I could hear.
Oh yeah, he does do that. Yeah, no, but he's great. Yeah. We love Aaron.
No. We love Torres. Could run for the mayor of Tuscaloosa and get it. I'm telling you,
he'd have no chance here.
Really? Okay.
No chance.
No. They love him in Tuscaloosa. I mean, he could be the grand marshal of the Christmas parade. I mean, he is that popular out here. He's got like his own little cult following. And if I don't feature him, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, he went on vacation, went to Mexico for like a week and a half. Where's Torres? Why didn't you feature Torres? Well, I didn't want to spill the beans that he's on vacation in Mexico. I was like, well, we just couldn't make a time for him this week. But
all right, he's gotten 7 minutes. Let's move on. How about this?
Okay.
2 years ago, we got into a little bit of you, OB, myself, and the Alabama media, right? And you're the only one who makes eye contact with me. All the other guys from Alabama, there's that one guy that talks about A&M who kind of walks with a limp. He never makes eye contact with me, but he's loud. But you and I, it's fun. I guess I got a point to my madness. It's funny how media take on the personality of fans with other media, right? So when Jimbo came after Nick, or Nick came after Jimbo, whatever team you're on, right? There was the media were against each other. It was and now I think something similar is happening with Texas entering the SEC, and everybody's kind of, and it's just funny how we all, we defend our team and we walk up with not many of us look up when we walk, but I just find the whole thing comical with how we take on the personalities of our fan base when it comes to other fan bases.
Yeah, and listen, it was a pretty crazy time. Matter of fact, I was on vacation that week when all that went down, and I'll never forget it. Because of Jimbo Fisher, my cell phone, or Nick Saban, whoever you want to blame, I had to log in to AT&T. I was in the middle of the Caribbean, had no cell phone service. I ended up paying for the daily pass because my text messages were just blowing up. I didn't know if Nick Saban had died. Literally, did you see what Nick Saban did? Did you see? Literally, there was no information. You know how generic text can be. And I'm looking come on, guys. And every time you respond, it's 50 cents, right? So if I say yes, no, it's 50 cents, right? So I ended up having to subscribe. But it was, listen, Coach Saban has got his weaknesses. There's things that he does that, I never cared for. I did think when you look at, and I don't want to dig back old skeletons here, but it's to say he was selfish. I think he understood. Listen, when you look at things that he was not able to control, this was one of them, right? NIL was something that he couldn't get the advantage of. So to say that, yeah, he said it for, I believe, the right reasons, but I also think that, you could look at it and say, he probably had a little selfish side of him too, because, and I think that's probably one of the reasons, not that reason, but NIL, I think if we don't have NIL, I'm not sure that Nick Saban's not still coaching.
I agree with you.
I think he could do it, but his heart wasn't in it. And I think it's pretty well documented. Alabama was really behind on their NIL. They had not got it because everybody in their mindset was like, okay, we're going to get the Saban discount. We're going to get the Saban discount. We're going to get the Saban discount. So, hey, we don't need $200,000 to get a defensive lineman. But anyway, but no, it is kind of funny that, media. Listen, I love my job. I enjoy my job, but I never want to cause enemies, as far as 6 o'clock in the evening. Because I got into it with a guy on Friday that, matter of fact, the Texas guy, man, I blessed him out. I did. I wish if I could have got his number out and said, man, I probably stepped over the line because.
And you would call. You're that kind of guy. You would call.
Yeah, he pushed so many buttons on me on Friday, though. And so I really did, man. I unloaded on this Texas guy. And
what you mean?
Yeah,
you can tell us. Circle of Trust. Who was it?
Well, okay, so he goes by a weird name. Huh. He calls in as Digger, Digger. I've never heard of a nickname called Digger. And he calls in, but no, I mean it's really weird, and he always loves to talk about these stupid swimming and diving championships. I mean, I said nobody cares. No, nobody cares. I mean, we looked it
unless
up.
You win it.
41. Well, okay. I mean, but we don't have any chance of winning a swimming and diving championship. But he's very proud of it, and those volleyball championships, which are also very important, but not as important as the pigskin.
We've got 11 minutes. We haven't looked ahead. I want to look ahead, but I want to make one final comment about that.
I can do 2 segments if you need me to.
Oh, God, no. No, I'm kidding. I do want to do one little other thing.
Okay.
Had Jimbo been able to back up his fighting with wins, I think we would look at that whole moment in time differently. Because at the time, I'm different than, like, I like the fight guy, okay? Even though I never fight. But I like to project that image. I thought, that's my coach. He's defending my program. I love this dude, right? Then he lost a lot. And he lost a lot more, right? And so it takes away from what I thought. Did he handle it correctly? No. We all know he didn't handle it correctly. But at that time, it did galvanize our fan base because we felt justified because, hey, we went 8-4 last year because our quarterback got hurt. And then we go 5-7 because all of our quarterbacks got hurt. And then we go 7-5 because all of our quarterbacks got hurt. But had he been 9-3-ish, 10-2, which was certainly possible those years without injuries, possible, then I think we look at that moment in history with a little bit more kind of an eye.
I think so. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you this from a standpoint in Tuscaloosa, it did wake up the NIL world. And maybe that's what Nick Saban was trying to do. Mm-hmm. Deep down inside, he was trying to get that money amped up, right? He was trying to get that – because that NIL fund now is, it's rocking and rolling. But I think he had to show them, hey, you got to have this if you want to continue to recruit among the elite teams in college football. So it was a wake-up call for probably both fan bases.
All right, let's talk about this team here. Do you feel that Bama is getting the proper love considering – it is a completely different environment there?
It is, but I think they're getting in a lot of ways disrespected. Okay, this team was a college football playoff team. Yeah, they lost some guys to the portal, but they also picked up a lot of guys in the portal too. I mean, they went out and, like the center. Okay, we just look at the center. The center that had all the bad snap issues from game number 1 to game number, 13, 14, whatever Michigan was out of the Rose Bowl. The snap issue where, it could be high, it could be low, it could be over his head. I mean, thank God for Jalen Milroe, by the way, because they would probably have another, 30 sacks. We still gave up 49 sacks. So that center has departed. Wide receiver, Isaiah Bond, he went to a little small school that doesn't win anything in Texas. I'm trying to think what they are. Maybe it was TCU or – no, it was Texas. It's Texas, Isaiah Bond. I'm just kidding. But he went there, but they also picked up Jeremy Bernard, one of the top wide receivers in the transfer portal. He comes to Tuscaloosa. When you look at this team, I think this team's going to shock a lot of people because this cloud that was Nick Saban hanging over this program. Now hear me out, and this is going to sound really, really weird, but it's almost like Nick Saban is going to retire. Nick Saban is going to retire. When is it? This year? Next year? When you get 72, you're not promised tomorrow. Well, that cloud was, when is it? The uncertainty. Now that's been removed. When I go in that building, David, it is a different vibe. It is a relationship. It's about assistant coaches because this is the one thing that's never told. Coach Saban, the last 4 to 5 years, he hired some of the weakest assistant coaches that I've ever seen come through Tuscaloosa. I mean, guys, they were no longer getting 1, 2, 3. They were going 4, 5, 6. I mean, they were having to pull guys out like, who's this? Who? You have to go look up the bio. I mean, like you're trying to figure out who this is, or you're getting guys who had baggage, guys who came in from other programs with suitcases full of baggage. So the assistant coaches, top to bottom, I've been on record of saying this, 1 through 11, 10 assistant coaches and the head coach. This is a better coaching staff than what Nick Saban put on the field in the last 4 to 5 years. It really isn't close. When you look at these guys that are making up, I'm talking about, I'm not, sure, certainly it's top heavy with Nick Saban, right? The greatest football coach of all. But the 10 assistant coaches, many of them were not high quality assistant coaches. And you saw that because, like Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, well, he's not calling plays anywhere. He's coaching tight ends in the NFL. He's not a play caller. He really struggled. That team made it to college football playoffs on a wing and a prayer last year. Not a very good football team. I think when you look at it this year, I think they're going to be better coached. I think the talent's still there. And I think this team's a playoff team. I don't think this team is not going to make the playoffs. The talent is here. And Kalen DeBoer, if you watch him, use the Texas example. We look at the Pac-12 and say, not a physical football team. He whipped Texas in the trenches. That offensive line whipped Bo Davis's defensive front there in Austin. It was down in New Orleans, but the defensive line. So when you look at physicality, I think he's going to bring a lot of that back to Alabama. We've got away from that. I think they're going to throw the football, but they're also going to be physical when they need to be. I think this team is a playoff team.
So I've said today on this show that Alabama team that Texas beat convincingly is not the same Alabama team that we saw at the end of the year. So when you think about where Alabama was last year, and they still made the college football playoffs, right?
Right.
And the fact that Texas did have their way with them, double-digit win, whatever it was. When it comes to both Texas and Oklahoma, are they both, and Oklahoma's schedule is ridiculous, are they going to get a wake-up call this year?
Well, I think they will. And I was talking with one of the coaches out there. I'm trying to think who it was. And I'll tell you what, it was Chris Doran. And he said, Texas, the one thing that, they kind of survive by these small victories, right? You're not going to be able to get by with that in the SEC. There's somebody going to get you. You guys see this. When you come into the league, you think, well, we can do what we have done in this league. I think Texas, week in and week out. Okay, take the Alabama game for them. Last year, yeah, it was more than a one-game schedule, but you get a chance to focus on Alabama a lot, right? We'd all heard the stories about them hiring Gary Patterson to kind of break down that one game, right? To come up with a strategy to slow down that Alabama offense. It worked. But they spent a lot of time in that one game. When you're in the SEC, you have to prepare for all types of games. When you look at Texas, that's the one I think is makes the SEC so strong. And I'm not saying any given week because I'm not in that kind of group, but it's not top heavy as some of these other leagues. You go to the middle of the pack teams, they may be 8-5, but you could pull them out and put them in another conference. They might be undefeated.
Yep.
This league eats you up. It is a league that you've got to be able to, like I said, I'm not one of those any given weeks. You've still got the Mississippi State, the Arkansas, the Kentuckys, the Vanderbilts, the South Carolinas, but you've got an Auburn that's sitting there, barely holding on. Where would they be at? So when you think about programs, it's just week in and week out. I think Texas is going to have a wake-up call. And remember, Sark just coached his first double-digit win season, and he's been in some great spots. So that was the first time for him, finally reaching that double-win plateau.
Are you high on Jalen Milroe? Because I hear most people say he could be a Heisman contender, but Ty Simpson's there, and you never know if things go south. So where are you when it comes to the quarterback spot?
I think Jalen Milroe's the guy, and I think they'll use him. That's the issue last year is when you look at Tommy Rees, they had an identity crisis. They didn't know what they wanted to be. It was like, okay, hold on, that play really, really worked. Why do they not run more of that? Oh, hey, look at that tall sweep. Man, they picked up 15 to 20 yards. Well, let's put that in our back pocket. We'll never use that play. It was when you look back at Alabama's offense, I can't look at you with a straight face and tell you what it was because I don't know. It was almost like you're in the backyard and you're out there with your buddies and you're like, okay, hey, let's run this play. Tommy Rees was not a good offensive coordinator. So I think this year they're going to use him, but I also think he's going to be a distribution center. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to get these balls to the wide receivers. They have better running backs too, and I think that's going to take some pressure off of Jalen Milroe. He's not going to have to be, I think, was he the second leading rusher last year? They've got a Justice Haynes and a Jam Miller that I think is going to be really, really good. When you talk about last year, they were average backs, and I'm not even sure if they were average. They might be compared to Alabama standards, maybe a step below as far as the running backs. I think you're going to have better production there, which is going to take a lot of pressure off of Jalen Milroe and probably make those passes a little bit easier if you can get that rushing game cranked up.
Ryan Fowler with us here on TexAgs Radio. Ryan, last
But
thing.
you haven't asked me the problems, though. You haven't got to the defensive side of football.
All right, well,
that's where.
Hey, look, give me the problem. We'll extend this interview a little bit. Give me the problems. Where are you seeing some potential issues? Is it in the secondary?
Defense.
Yeah.
Defense. It's all about the 4-2-5. You're making a transition from a 3-4 to a 5. Yeah, but they do also play a lot of nickel in Nick Saban's system. It's the defensive backs. Nick Saban said it on national television, but it's easy for me to echo it. When you look at this defensive back room, they got Jackson coming in from USC, the cornerback. But that corner, because if you play the 5 defensive backs, you really have 2 other corners. You have 3 total. They have 1 nailed down with Jackson. They do have a transfer in from Wake Forest, but they may have to start a true freshman at that one of those corner spots. That's growing pains. So your offense better be clicking because you're going to have to cover up. The defense, I do like what they're going to. It just may take a little bit more time for an adjustment. This 4-2-5 defense is just something that the terminology is going to be a little bit different. I like the linebackers, Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell. And I was going to ask you about LT Overton. We're kind of putting a lot of weight on him to be able to, be one of those key defensive line, returning to his state here. LT Overton really needs to be that dominant defensive line. We haven't had a defensive lineman in Tuscaloosa that's kind of take over a game, like a Quentin Williams, like a Chris Braswell, or excuse me, like a Chris Barmore. Just one of those defensive linemen. They got depth at that position, but I don't know if they have a superstar. Like I said, they're kind of counting on LT Overton to be that, but they're going to be some growing pains. They're going to have to win games, 42-35, 45-42, those type. They're going to have to outscore some people. Defense is going to be some growing pains initially.
All right, Ryan, we are way past the break, but I'm going to ask you one more.
Fine.
All right, let's just do one more.
You're fine. Okay.
Navigate the schedule for me. Where are some potential pitfalls? Some areas like, all right, this is where they're going to make some hay.
Well, that Georgia game, September the 28th, is going to be the game that I think about from a Georgia perspective. If Kalen DeBoer beats them, how much Alabama is going to be living in their head because, they can't get over this Alabama hump. They try and try and try, and they've done it like once or twice. That one's a tough one. I think the Tennessee on the road in Knoxville could also be a team that could slip up. I don't really believe in Baton Rouge because if Kalen DeBoer's offense is going to be the offense that we think it's going to be, that defense has not got any better in Baton Rouge. I don't think the Baton Rouge trip is going to be that big of an issue. I think it's the Georgia game, and then that Norman, Oklahoma trip to see where Brent Venables is. And it's right before Auburn, which is the big Iron Bowl, and it's the big rivalry. So you could be kind of looking ahead because Alabama played like crap, and I'm sure a lot of those players, want to change something against Auburn. So that slip-up could be in Norman, Oklahoma. Another one that kind of – plus they got to go to Wisconsin. This schedule's it's a booger bear. It's a tough one.
Ryan, I appreciate it, man. You're always great. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Hey, giggle, man. Appreciate you guys.
See?
And, hey, listen. See, I'm more on your side now than I've ever been. Texas just brings us all together, right? But, hey, appreciate you guys. Have a great day, man.
Well, hopefully we're still the SEC and not the Longhorn Network, whatever they want it to become. Thank you, brother.
Short horns.
Appreciate you. Ryan Fowler here.
We'll
hit a break. Open segment before Coach G comes here on TexAgs Radio. Right now, we're talking Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community. They have homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and they have a mission to build a healthy community around nature. And they've done so by creating this awesome sanctuary for family, for nature, and for community. You go there, you go hiking, you go biking, you go canoeing, you go kayaking, you climb trees, you jump rope, you hang out with your family together. It is the place to go in this area. If you're coming from Houston, you'll pass it there on your left-hand side, coming from Kyle Field. On your right-hand side, Kyle Field, you'll pass it on your left-hand side. It is a great place to go and just enjoy being outdoors with your family. You can learn more at millikenreserve.com. That website is millikenreserve.com. Go check it out. I got Carson over here trying to convince me of some argument that they had on the air the other day that LeBron's better than Michael. I'm not going to even justify that comment. It's just dumb. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Something interesting that Ryan Fowler said that I think people sometimes, and by the way, Coach G's about to join us, people overlook, like when you overlook a team, like, hey, we got Oklahoma this week, but Auburn's ahead, and you start focusing. I don't think it works as simple as that. Like, I'm thinking about Auburn and not thinking about Oklahoma. What I think happens is you take for granted your matchup. Your level of intensity maybe drops, but you don't recognize it because you don't have that big carrot in front of you that week. It's not like you're thinking, oh, I don't need to focus on Oklahoma. I'm focusing on Auburn. That's not how it works. I think it's you take for granted the matchup. And that's why the accountability that we hear Coach Elko talking about, and there's a level of preparation that you have to treat Bowling Green the same way, like the level of preparation. Sure, can you get away with more things? Can certain players get more playing time? Absolutely. But there's a level of preparation mentally that each game has to matter. Every rep has to matter. And that starts in the offseason. That starts with your strength and conditioning coach. I'm making this about A&M because at the end of the day, if you don't tackle every rep the same way, for instance, in my business, yeah, we all know that football pays the bills. If I don't treat every athlete that I interview, every coach that I interview, every sport with the same level of intensity, then I am not doing my job. And that's what I think Ryan is attesting to when, hopefully they're not looking ahead. I don't believe A&M is thinking about Texas when they are playing a couple weeks heading into that game. No, they got other things that they have to worry about. So, all right, a little bit of more on that here in a moment. Let's do this. Let's hit a break. When we come back, Coach G will be in studio. They start their preseason here momentarily, so we'll talk to him about all the great things happening there at Texas A&M Golf. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with more. It's TexAgs Radio. And we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Coach G is in studio. Preseason is moments away. G, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Excited to just about get things rolling for the 2024 season for Aggie soccer.
So when do you all officially start?
So the players are pretty much all back in town now. Officially, they report this coming Sunday. And then we will start our first training session a week from tomorrow.
And then you have a couple exhibitions before it actually gets started?
Yeah, the first exhibition game, which will actually be here at home, and it's a free game for fans who want to come out, is going to be Saturday the 3rd of August, which is just around the corner. And then we're going to go up to Dallas to play SMU on the 8th. And then the season around the country kicks off on Thursday the 15th. And that's
who do you play then?
We're going to go over to Lamar. It's our first time ever to go to Beaumont. So, but they had a great year. They're coming off of a couple straight championships in the Southland. Nathan Kogut, who is a College Station boy, and parents are still here in College Station, and former assistant of ours is head coach for the Cardinals, and he's done a wonderful job over there. Coach of the year the last couple of years. We're going to go over and play them at their place, and that'll be actually a bit of a snake pit for us over there. So we're hoping that we don't walk into something like that. But he's done a great job. They beat a top 15 team last year. Last year was Xavier, so that'll be a really good challenge for us. The first game of the season, great game, and that'll be so that's the opener, and then the following week we'll come back here, and we've got a game on Wednesday the 21st to be our home opener, and then the Fish Camp game on the Saturday night the 24th.
A great game, yeah.
And that'll be awesome. Yep.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the roster, how it's kind of shaken out, because there's some new players, and then
well, it's odd because this is the last year, and you hear this with football, and you're going to hear this all year long with all the sports, in that this is the last COVID year. So this is a year where, in 2020, when all the nonsense with COVID was going on, all of those players that played that year, you got a do-over. Mm-hmm. So nobody's eligibility counted against them in 2020. So what that did for a lot of kids was it gave them a fifth year, a free year. So this now, it's 4 years later. So this is the last year of COVID. So we actually have 5 classes this year. So we have, our freshmen through seniors, but then we also have the 5th year COVID kids. So it's the biggest roster I've ever had. I've got 32 players on the team. We usually operate a team of about 24 players, 25 players. I've got 32 this year because we've got some red shirts, and then you throw in that has happened in the last 4 years, the whole issue with the transfer portal. So we've got it's a little bit different in that it's a big roster, but also you also look at some of the transfers that we've been able to bring in, and some really, really talented players. So our leading scorer last year was straight out of the transfer portal in Jazz Wilkinson. But then we've brought in, coming out of last year, that was one of the big things that we thought that we needed was we need one more goal scorer. And so we went ahead and we decided we got to find one more goal scorer. So we went and brought in 4. So you're going to see Bree Severance, who's a 5'10" striker out of University of Kansas, who we think can be really, really dynamic. She didn't play this past year at KU. She graduated from with the Jayhawks in 3 years with a biology major, 3.8 grade point average.
Wow.
I mean, she fits right in with our team.
Yeah.
So she comes in. Allie Lowry, who has played in the Final Four with Rutgers, another striker, another graduate transfer. She comes in. She's, again, a goal scorer from Rutgers. Then you got Leah Pirro, who's an all-conference, big-time attacking player. She's a playmaker out of Grand Canyon. She's a California kid, fits in great. Came in the spring, and she's a great complement to kind of our real creative playmakers in the middle of the field. And she's a big addition to us in attack. And then Candy Clark, who was a freshman this past year at Xavier, striker, posts up really well, goal scorer, brings other people into the game. So you've got those players as legitimate goal scoring threats, and then on top of that, you still have the goal scorers that we had last year, and all of our midfield is back, our defense is back, and then we've got we've got two new freshman goalkeepers along with Grace McClellan, who returns last year from goal. The girls that graduated from last year, Kenna Caldwell now is up with Orlando in NWSL. We're excited for her, and Sammy Smith was our other graduating senior. She's playing professionally in Iceland right now. So it's the whole team basically is back and ready to roll. We had a great spring, and we think this is a really, really good team. So we're quietly optimistic about what we think is going to be a lot of fun and a lot of great chemistry within the team. The team is very, very tight. Two captains, Anderson Williams, who is back healthy, middle of the team. She's got like the maturity of about a 32-year-old on the team, and for a lot of people, you think that she's been here that long. She's here in her fifth year, and is someone who's really dynamic in the way that she plays. And then, our other captain is kind of the linchpin to our defense, and that's Carolyn Calzada, who's
dynamite.
Long legs, covers a lot of ground, great in defense, but also great in starting our attack, and really, really tough defender.
So our staff put together this note: almost every player on the team with over 1,000 minutes played last season.
Yeah, we've been a young team the last few years. Well, now it's turning. So the next 2 years will be, we will be a senior-dominated team, and even next year, you will be a team that is dominated by older players. And specifically, you guys know, Micaiah, who's been here working with you guys this summer. Micaiah, who's a senior this year, who is a legitimate pain in the neck to have to defend because of her pace, her ability to change a game and turn a game on its ear. With her ability to beat people 1v1, she was a nightmare for players, especially early in the year.
Early in the year, she was unstoppable. Yeah.
Yeah, and she had that type of spring all spring long. We think it's going to be a break. We think that she is going to be someone that is going to be unplayable when teams are trying to stop her. And then, of course, on the other flank is Mia Pante from Canada, and those two as wingers. And us in transition, we're the best transition team in the country going forward. And those two are the key to that. We have needed the person who gets on the end of the balls that they flash across the front of goal. And Phil Stevenson does such a wonderful job for us in our build up and how he helps to create these attacking situations for us. When we were talking to these transfers, a lot of it was just showing video of how we were in transition and just kind of showing, all right, well, can you finish these opportunities? And it was just balls just going across the face of goal about 3 yards from goal, and people like going, and showing what it's like to play in front of the 12th man at Ellis Field. And they're like, where do I sign? What do I need to do to sign up for this? And that's a lot of what we think this season's going to be about.
Speaking of Phil Stevenson, his son Chris Stevenson is leading the 2007 Cavalry boys in the national championship game today. Cavalry, you're the director of coaching. I'm
the president. Rick Seabolt's the director of coaching. I'm just the guy at the end of the table. But yeah, Cavalry 07 Black, who is this is actually a really fun story. This is mostly 16, 17-year-old boys from here in the Brazos Valley. This is a team with Cavalry, who's sponsored by TexAgs, wears TexAgs proudly across their chest.
Beautiful jerseys.
They are great. Yeah. And this is when we started Cavalry back in about 7 years ago. This was our first U11 team. So these boys have been together since they were 10 years old, the core of this team. And here they are. Chris Stevenson's their coach. And they are playing this morning.
Right around now, right? They're starting soon?
In Denver. They're going to kick off at 10:30 Mountain Time, so about 11:30 our time. And they'll be playing for a national championship and playing against the Chicago Fire youth team. And a real opportunity, I think maybe one of the first times that a team from this part of the country will be playing for a national title. And it's exciting for the boys. They won a dramatic double overtime game yesterday against a team from North Carolina. And if you go to cavalrysoccer.com, there'll be a link there. You can watch the game live stream. It's free. I think also if you go to Facebook Live and you go to the Cavalry website, you could watch the game there. It's a link. Not exactly the highest quality video. You're not going to hear you're not going to hear an ESPN broadcaster do the game, but it's exciting for them. I'm excited for all those kids, for the parents, and these are boys that are they play for Consol, they play for College Station High, they play for Madisonville, Navasota. These are our kids here in the Brazos Valley who have kind of done it themselves and a lot to be proud of for what they've been able to do.
I've posted the link on the boards. If you want to check it out, you can watch that game here momentarily. Also, my boys have played at Calvary the last 3 years. Rick Siebold is fantastic. We love Dr. Siebold.
Just a bunch of great kids and a lot of great people. And it's something that I think TexAgs and everyone in this part of the country should be really proud of, because in this community to have a soccer group that is playing for a championship and a national title is pretty exciting.
I'll say this. I was blown away when we moved here, the level of talent, because I was like, small town. It's fantastic.
You're going to play a team from Chicago in a national final.
For a national championship. Thank you, Coach G. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
We'll hit a break. When we come back around Aggieland, first, though, let's talk Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. When you're looking for a new vehicle, that's the place you should check out, because they have great deals on their vehicles, right? You go there, you're going to test drive, you're going to love what you have, but they're also going to give you a great trade-in value and the best customer service around town. I'm telling you, they have complimentary pickup and delivery for all of their service customers here in the Brazos Valley. They are the best when it comes to giving you the best deals and the best pricing, and of course, just a great feeling when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It is about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. Cheerio. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. And with that, we have Kay Naegeli.
How was your weekend, David? What did you do?
I actually partied my head off. All right.
That's how you recovered from SEC media.
On Friday, I watched, what movie did I watch? I watched some movie.
Have you seen Twisters?
I'm not going to.
Why?
It just looks stupid.
Oh my goodness.
And I know Josh Pate's going to get mad at me. Twister 1 was horrendous in my opinion. I haven't seen it since 94, 96, whatever it was. And I fell asleep. It doesn't look like my kind of movie.
But you don't even.
There's not a vigilante.
Given it a shot.
If the main character could shoot down the tornado, I'd be interested. All right.
They do send like fireworks up into a tornado.
Okay. Fireworks. Another thing. Overrated. I could just, okay, cool, lights in the air and sounds.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
For any people that.
I saw the bike riders. I actually enjoyed it.
Okay.
You don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Tom Hardy, one of the best actors. The dude who played Elvis, great actor. Aaron something or Adam or something with an A. No? You don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's about a bike rider gang. And they get into fights. It was good.
Okay. That's the movie you watched over the weekend? Or?
I watched that and I went fishing with some friends.
Heck yeah.
And I went to another get together. I actually was social Nuño.
Look at you. Oh, we are so
No
proud.
fun Nuño is actually lots of fun Nuño.
No Fun Nuño is being locked up for the meantime, and you're having some fun over the summer.
I'm having fun.
I like that.
And I partied my tail off
There
at
you
SEC
go.
Media Days,
There
at
you
least
go.
during
You
dinner.
did. You stayed up to at least 9:30.
No. We the first night, we didn't have dinner until 10.
That is true.
Billy, we'll be there at 8:30. It's like 11 o'clock. I'm like, dude, I got to get home.
Late dinner.
Anywho.
And then the one night you were like, I may or may not be back, and you were definitely not back.
No.
It's okay.
Yeah, I need my sleep.
You know what we're going to do this weekend, though?
What are we doing this weekend?
Party at the TexAgs preseason
Oh,
kickoff.
girl, preseason kickoff. And Buzz is interviewing folks.
Heck yeah, that's
be fun.
awesome. Yeah, I want to talk about that and Around Aggieland for our subscribers that do not know about it. This weekend is the TexAgs preseason kickoff at the Texas A&M MSC. It is for premium and varsity subscribers only, plus any immediate family. And there's also a virtual option for anyone wanting to view it online. I believe Cade Bickham and Nick Savage will be helping out get that all working. The event will begin Saturday at 11:50 a.m. to 4 p.m. The doors actually open at 10:30 a.m. with a lunch. And as well, there is a pre-hangout event on Friday, July 26th at 5:30 at the Block T Bar at the Texas A&M Hotel and Conference Center. I know a bunch of us will be there, so come hang out, come have some fun this weekend, listen to some head coaches, and get excited for the 2024-2025 athletic year. Also, with that being said, we are just 40 days away from kickoff against Notre Dame. In addition, Mike Elko's San Antonio Coaches Night is tonight, so those coaches nights had a little bit of breakup, but this is the last one in San Antonio. He will be speaking tonight, so we're excited to hear from him. On the baseball front, don't know if y'all have talked about this, but Mike Early has landed a big right-handed arm out of Washington. Grant Cunningham will come to Aggieland as a junior with 2 more years of eligibility with a 3.73 ERA, 41 appearances, and then he is obviously following his coach, who is now the pitching coach at A&M. So that is a great addition. Just had G Guerrieri on, but we are just 12 days. This is what I like to call countdown season.
Yep.
This is a good point in time. 12 days out from Aggie soccer, playing 2 exhibition games before their regular season begins. August 3rd will be home against Rice, and then August 8th will be away against SMU. And then also just an additional reminder that the Olympics do indeed start on Friday, and we have a ton of different Aggies competing, and I know we have some lists following along to see how those Aggies do throughout the whole 2 weeks that it is. So it'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully Aggies can have a lot of success.
Great job, Kay.
Of course.
Thank you very much. You know who's coming up next?
Mr. William himself.
Billy Liucci will be joining us. He called me Grind Geo yesterday because I'm a grinder, apparently.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not a grinder.
Yeah. I'm not Brian Kelly, all right? There's no grinding going on, Billy. I asked a simple question. Are you on the show or not? It's midnight. I need to know. I need to plan, Billy. Sorry.
Valid.
Sorry for asking questions. Sorry for caring about my job. My bad. When we come back, Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Talk to you in a bit. We're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 3 of the program. Billy Liucci. I don't know what's going on with my whole system. Billy Liucci should be joining us here momentarily. So earlier this morning, I should have read this. Pete Thamel tweeted that have been told by multiple sources that there is no expectation for Florida State or for Clemson to notify the ACC that they intend to leave by the August 15th deadline to depart after this upcoming year. So no expectation for Florida to do that. The deadline to declare the exit for the 25-26 season. So looks like the ACC is going to be just fine, at least until the Big Ten and the SEC decide to absorb some teams. But this week, we do have ACC Media Days happening, and we also have, Big Ten Media Days all happening. So, and there's some storylines to watch for that. So one of those storylines has been answered. Looks like Clemson and Florida State are going to stay. So there is that. Now, does that mean they're going to drop their lawsuit and all the other stuff that's going on? Well, that I don't think has been answered. So that is one of the ones to, but I think just like we saw at SEC Media Days, one of the big storylines to follow in both the Big Ten and the ACC is the new teams coming in, right? Like if you look at the ACC, they have become a countrywide conference. 3 time zones are being represented there in the ACC with Stanford and Cal, which I still think is just ridiculous. You've got only one team in the middle in SMU joining the conference. Some big names for the ACC. I get it. It just doesn't fit unless they start adding multiple more teams, which is not going to be the case. But so that they have that. And then on the Big Ten side, obviously the additions of the Pac-12 teams. And when you think about, and I'll ask Billy this when he gets in here, maybe we should try him on the phone in a moment. But when you think about like the Big Ten and the hierarchy, how's that going to play out this particular year? Because I'm sorry, I don't believe in Michigan yet. I think their defense is going to be really good. I don't know anything about their offense, right? I think Donovan Edwards is back, but they got a new quarterback, new offensive line. So their offense, and they're reigning national champs. They should get some respect in their name. But are they the 3rd best team in the Big Ten? I don't know. Because when you look at it, I think it's clearly Ohio State at the top. Oregon 2nd. And then a question for 3rd. Is it Michigan? Is it Penn State? Is it USC? I don't think it's USC. I think USC might have a really rough year. So those are some interesting storylines to follow up with the Big Ten. I'd like for Michigan to be really good for obvious reasons. But and I do think Oregon's going to fit in nicely. I think the California schools are going to struggle in their first year in the Big Ten. Struggle-ish. Like they struggled last year. But I think there's certainly going to be more struggles there. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein is still with us. Carson?
David, I wanted to go a little bit off what you were saying about the Big Ten because, Oregon's been kind of killing it on the recruiting trail here lately. But Trey McNutt, one of the top safeties in the country, was supposed to commit on Friday, delayed his commitment, and it looks like it's down to the Oregon Ducks and the Texas A&M Aggies. So with the delay in commitment, it looks like A&M's kind of in a good spot for him.
Yeah, look, I think that's going to be one that's going to take a while based on the intel that Ryan and Jason have provided. Is there a chance? Sure, of course there's a chance. You got to feel good about where you're at. But I think it's one of those, if it doesn't go A&M's route, maybe, a little bit of time. You can maybe make your case and get them. What else do you have for us?
I got something from the volleyball program as A&M head coach Jamie Morrison guided the United States women's U19 national team to a gold medal winning performance.
They got the gold? All right, let's go, Jamie. Good job. Congratulations to Jamie Morrison and the U19s. That's awesome work.
Not a whole lot going on right now. It's like you guys were saying, it's talking point season, but not a lot of other things going on around college football right now.
I mean, there's a lot of talking going on in college football and a lot of opinions going on in college football and trying to figure out where where teams are going to be and whatnot. But yeah, the practicing starts very soon. What are we? It's the 22nd. What are we? 9-10 days away from A&M starting. So yeah, things are going to start developing. What I'm really excited about is where some of these guys go, right? Like, we haven't seen Terry Bussey at practice and with A&M. Well, Des Ricks, I want to see what a healthy Des Ricks looks like. There's a lot of young, 5-star, brilliant talent that has not done anything with this program just yet, and I want to see what it looks like with them, with the additions. Right? To me, that is going to be one of the big storylines. Also, I'm curious to see how Coach Elko does tonight in San Antonio. I mean, we've already gotten the most up-to-date talking points, but at the coaches' convention and also with the Touchdown Club. So in that regards, I'm interested. Let's go to the hotline. I believe Billy Liucci is on there, our executive editor and co-owner. Billy, good morning, buddy.
What's up, David?
How are you?
I call you Grindio one time, and then y'all just don't even call me.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the grinder. I asked you twice about the show. Sorry that I care.
Well, I skipped Mexico for you, so I'll be there shortly.
Does that mean Mexico's coming in the next couple of weeks?
I think I'm going to change it up and go somewhere else. It was the exact same trip as last summer. Same people, same amount of days, same everything. But really, I would have still done it. It's relaxing. It's fun. I was exhausted from, 4 days and nights in Dallas. It's just Omaha, a little bit of time off in Dallas. And I just kind of was like, we'll take some time this week, just relax, and then go. Got probably planned actually a week from today, going on a little one somewhere I have never been before. So I'm looking forward to that. I got 2, 3-4 day trips planned in August that are going to be places I've never been. So,
Billy, tomorrow
That's it.
We start our 24 and 24 tomorrow. I know one of your favorite things to do, and it's interesting. Like, as I'm going through this list, it's hard to project people that we haven't seen yet. And I'm kind of going through some of what Coach Elko said over the last week and talking about Terry Bussey's role. Terry, I'll read you the quote. Terry was a huge get for us. He's a tremendous athlete. We think he's really got a bright and present future. He still has not had an official A&M football practice. I think he'll start on defense, but everyone is aware of his flexibility he has to help us in a lot of ways. Is Terry one of those guys that, like, just give it time, and when that time comes, you're going to see him everywhere?
I don't think you're going to see him everywhere. I mean, the list includes what? Travis Hunter on a horrific football team, and that's about it. College football right now. I'm sure there's someone else I'm forgetting, but I just think it's more about, probably special teams and one side of the ball where he can excel. I mean, if he's at corner, it wouldn't shock me to see, like, him occasionally line up at receiver, but I don't think he'd be like a split, literally play both type of guy. You remember like a Charles Woodson, you would see him line up at receiver, some from Michigan. And I wouldn't call it a novelty, but, Dion would do that. But I mean, that's just asking so much because it's practice. It's like running the right routes every time. It's understanding every coverage and check. And it's just, I think the game is far too complicated now. You don't practice enough, and you end up not being the best that you can be at one of the positions. So I don't think it's necessarily where he'd be a flash. But again, Travis Hunter's doing that on one of the more rancid programs, one of the worst run outfits in the sport over there in Boulder, Colorado. So, and he is also, by the way, we think Bussey can get there, and Hunter is one of the most outstanding, exceptional athletes in the college game. Do I think Terry Bussey has that kind of potential? Yeah, I think he's every bit deserving of that 5-star status because of what he can do and how he can play. He's pretty sensational. I think he'll be sensational on one side of the ball at A&M, and maybe you'll see him sometime, occasionally on the other. I still think it's cool. Man, I think if you look up one day soon and you see like Bussey, and I don't know if it'll be this year, it might be. But if you see Bussy and Des Ricks, man, he didn't practice. He didn't practice this spring, so it's not like we don't pencil him in. But if you see like Bussy and Des Ricks at corner one day, hold on, coffee, sorry, got stuff. If you got Des Ricks and Bussy, that's kind of like that's the top end athlete corner combo that we have not seen at Texas A&M. I don't know since when. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, Mickens and Glenn and Kevin Smith. I mean, you're going all the way back there. Like it. The Aggies. I mean, to have that high level of cornerback even recruit that have made their way into the starting lineup, because Denver Harris was that highly regarded. Smoke Bowie was a tick behind that, but neither one of them ever got on the field. To have a couple of those guys on the field like that, they haven't had that. I don't even know if they've had one five. I'm not wrong. I don't think they've had one 5-star corner play and start since they joined the SEC, much less if they were to one day have two of them. Sammy Davis, Sean Weston was a good corner under R.C. Slocum, but he wasn't a 5-star athlete recruit. Like you see it at Georgia, you see it at Alabama. We saw it for a long time at LSU. They wish they could have that back right now. They don't, but hell, you saw it at Texas regularly under Mack Brown. You see it at Oklahoma. We've never seen it at A&M.
Billy, I'm looking at a potential depth chart, and I know that all this is work to be done. They'll figure it out over the next month. But like the beauty is, if you feel good about the transfer additions and some of the development and the fact that Tyreek Chappelle is back, like there's time to ease them in if it is this season.
Yeah, I mean, the cornerback position, there are a couple things people around the SEC. Are you going to a commercial?
I can hit a break here if you want.
Why don't you do that, since I'm looking at you, and I don't want to lose this train of thought, because we're coming out of SEC Media Days, and there's a couple misconceptions, I think, each way that folks around the conference have about A&M.
All right, we'll do that on the other side of the break. I'm going to talk a little Rollo Insurance right now. They're the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. They are not only, like, this is their studio. Like, they basically built it. I remember Jason and Jackson Rollo and Keith, they're, like, using nails, building our new studio. They're, like, even using a forklift. It's great to see them, the fact that they can build stuff. But they also can build you the best insurance plan for your family. In South Texas, they got a Houston office. They've got North Texas. They got East Texas. They got Central Texas. They got West Texas. They got everything outside of Texas. They got 54 offices in the great state of Texas. And they'll take care of you if you're a homeowner, your insurance there, your farmers, your ranchers, your hobby farmers, your business owners, your car. And their priorities is in line with what all Aggies have. God, family, and country. They take care of you here in this area, but they'll take care of you no matter where you are. And also, they're in College Station. Their headquarters, they're everywhere, but their headquarters is right here in College Station. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to RolloInsurance.com. That's 888-44-ROLLO or RolloInsurance.com. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy Liucci is in studio now. Billy, we left it at there are some misconceptions about A&M out there. We were talking initially about Terry Bussey, and then it became about the cornerbacks in general and people feeling good about the defensive backs. And I said we can take our time with some of these younger players, but you said let's hit a break because there's some misconceptions.
There are two things that I think the folks at the SEC and national level have a little bit wrong. And one of them's a positive towards A&M, and one of them's a negative, and one of them's in between. There's three things, so that's actually three. Here were my takeaways. Everybody up there, the more you talk to them, it's almost like it's kind of funny because some people were talking about, and I wanted to do a lot of fact checking when I was there.
Yep.
I had to do some fact checking on the whole baseball situation. I had to do some fact checking on Connor Wigman, and this is one of the things they were wrong about. And I think a lot of Aggies are in this boat as well, because we got a lot of sleuths and detectives here that think they're going to go back to, this guy missed some the last games of his career in the playoffs because he got a concussion, or was that his junior year? But one of those years he got lit up crossing the goal line, cheap shot, had a concussion, missed the rest of their playoff run. So people are counting that. I would say every one of you in the local, regional, national media, I hope you keep score of every other player's high school injuries, number one. We're talking about college, and people that say, like I heard Olin quote McGee, the best availability. The best ability is availability. And I agree with that in instances. I don't agree with that when people said that, and I heard that in Dallas about Connor Wigman. They see the 8 games, and for some reason I think people think, well, this guy's only played 8 games in 2 years. And he missed one game his freshman year when literally almost 50% of the available players were out with some kind of weird flu, like the kind that makes you not be able to play football, and half a team had it, which to me that was a indicator. Not that, look, you and I get sick, we ain't playing football. Some versions of it are so bad you can't play, but when 20 some odd people, I haven't go back in time in the history of football and tell me how many times you've seen a team. A&M plays 12 a year, and I've been covering them for 25 years. And I don't think I've ever seen an opponent that A&M's played. I would beg for the day that A&M would be playing, whoever. I don't want to put it on any specific team, but they come in here without a quarter or 50% of their available players because they're sick. But there was one game miss in there. It wasn't an injury. It was, and then there was. My point going back to that, by the way, is the culture thing. It's like, what do you ask and require? Like if you're vomiting and 103 fever, then understood. If you're on the tail end and you just don't want to come back a couple days early, that's on the staff and the culture of your program to say who's going to raise their hand and go, hey, I'll play, because that's the culture and that's the expectation, and that they want to, because they're like, man, this means so much to me because of the locker room and the culture I'm in, and that was kind of one of the earlier indications that thing was waning, unfortunately, in hindsight. Now, with that said, he's had one injury since he's been in college. So it's like people go, well, he only played in 4 games first year, 4 games the next year. What? Guys, he didn't start. He was a true freshman. He starting like game 8. That's it.
Yeah.
And then the next year, he started the first 4 and broke a bone and was out for the year on a play where a blitzing linebacker didn't get touched and he got obliterated. Guy dove at his legs to try to sack him. That's it. That was the one injury. So now, if you want to say, well, that O-line's going to have to get a lot better because all the A&M quarterbacks, you guys talked about it, I'll hear you on that, and I'll agree with you. Yeah, better, because that's a perfect recipe where QB's not making it through. But as far as Connor, he's had one injury in 2 years. He played 4 games his freshman year for a reason. The true freshman, they finally cycled through 8 million quarterbacks and played him probably 3 weeks later than they should have, and there he was. So that was my number one misconception. My number two, and this is just, I think you have to be really knowledgeable and kind of on the inside. I agree with people that watched A&M last year that would say that secondary is a real concern because they had a massive jump they had to make. If you're going to make a massive jump, make it with Mike Elko coming back.
Right.
Okay, so you've got one of the best defensive minds in college football over the last decade plus coming back. He proved it at Notre Dame. He's proved it at A&M. He proved it at Duke. So, number one, that in and of itself is going to make you better. Number two, they return some real talent in Bryce Anderson, a fourth-year starter in Tyreek Chappelle, who started 3 years in the SEC now. And then I think Dalton Brooks is exceptionally talented at safety. I think he's a guy we don't talk about enough out of last year's class. They got we talk about DJ Hicks and Reuben Owens and rightfully so, but I think Dalton Brooks is going to Torian York, but I think Dalton Brooks is going to be one of those guys as well. So they return some talent there, but look at what they brought in the portal too. I mentioned Ricks. We mentioned Bussey coming in, from the high school ranks. So you're adding 2 5-stars that weren't there this spring. You're adding a fifth-year player that started at least 3 years at Central Michigan at safety in Jones. You added Mays from UAB, who they really liked, and who had a good spring.
Yep.
You're adding BJ Mays, Will Lee from Kansas State, who started for a Big 12 championship team 2 years ago. And he gets lost in the shuffle a little bit because I just think people have he was such an early, you think he was the first portal guy under Elko. And then I always get them confused. Saunders is the corner, Ratcliffe the safety.
Donovan
right?
Saunders, yeah.
So I get those two confused all the time. But Saunders at 6'3", damn near looks like an NFL safety out there playing corner. They have depth at corner. I didn't mention Javon Thomas or Bravion Rogers,
right,
who unfortunately had to play last year way before they were ready. And they got picked on and they got exposed. I've seen that happen to a lot of good cornerbacks covering football for a long time, especially when you think of some of the games they were playing against. Miami has receivers. LSU going up against Neighbors and Brian Thomas. That game against Ole Miss when they're thrust out there and they're in great position and they're just getting mossed all game by a receiver that goes for 200 yards, who's all SEC now, Trey Harris. So those dudes got baptized by fire last season. And even they're back.
Right.
And we don't know. I've heard compliments from inside the program on both those guys in the spring they had. So that depth in the secondary, I think is terrific. I didn't mention Jared Kerr, who's played, in some significant games, a little bit here and there, but he's played in some significant games. That secondary, I don't want to quite call it loaded until it's like who's playing where.
Sure.
And we kind of look at it and then you see that too deep. But I think when you do, when the games start and you see the starters and then you realize who the backups are, it's a pretty loaded secondary. And I will say this.
It's not last year's secondary.
Infinitely more, and it's not coached by the same guys. Yep. Infinitely more talent than it had at any point under Elko. And certainly than last season when they ended the year playing 2 walk-ons in a bowl game. They started 2 walk-ons in a bowl game. Here's what you'd have to go through to get to walk-ons at corner this year. It's the 2 guys in Rogers and Thomas. It's Chappelle, Ricks, Mays, Lee, Bussey, Saunders. You go to the 9th guy, minimum. I'm probably forgetting someone. You go to the 9th guy before you get there. So last year they were in a bowl game starting a walk-on at corner and safety. So it's not the same. It's a completely different thing. I think the secondary could actually be a team strength. So I think that's where they're really missing on this team. And the other point where I think they kind of miss is everybody's thinking about how much raw talent this roster has. I think it is higher than the 9th place that they're predicted. I think if you want to make me an argument that they could have a top 5 roster in this conference, I would say, yeah, I would go Georgia, still Alabama. Then you factor in the LSUs, the Texas. There's a big group. Probably for this year, I'd go Georgia, Bama, then probably Texas. They have the high-end talent. They've done it through the portal. I still – Ole Miss, to me, would be with, I think A&M, raw talent. The teams they'd be –
both on offense and
defense. That's going to be on the field. You can argue with the – I think you can argue A&M in that 4th spot, and whether they're 4, 5, 6, you think of like Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
They're all in that discussion. They're way up, and it's not like 1 to 22, 1 to 44, 1 to 22. I still think they've got it over Missouri, who's ranked ahead of them. I still think they've got it maybe over Tennessee, maybe even LSU. So they're up there, but it's not. A couple years ago, people were thinking, including us with the way they were recruiting, that they were trending to Georgia, Bama levels. And I've been saying this offseason. They weren't going to have. So you see the all-conference team come out. And I think they'll have more at the end of the year than they do now. But they've got 3 guys that made any of the teams. I did a quick glance. Kentucky seemed like they had more than that, just on the 1st and 2nd team. So I think people are undervaluing the secondary. They're overinflating the injury concern with Wigman, and they are overrating the A&M roster by a little bit. And I think that's why we're coming off a little bit less bullish than maybe some of these guys are. But I do think this. If they play great defense and they protect Connor Wigman, and if I said they play great defense and they have an all-conference caliber quarterback, that's going to be a football team that's really damn hard to beat, especially if they're well coached and get their 4 toughest opponents at home.
We've got to hit a break, but let me ask you this, because I brought it up to OB. If I tell you this is going to be a top 5 defense in the conference, just that information, all right?
Yeah.
Does that make you feel like, yeah, this 9-3, 10-2 talk is certainly in the mix?
Yeah, if they're that, which I think they can be, that coach and those players. And then, again, like if they protect Wigman, I think Colin Klein, we keep talking about Tommy Moffitt, and for good reason. And I think that he made 2 incredible hires during this offseason, and it's Colin Klein and Tommy Moffitt. Okay. We talk a lot about Moffitt. I think Colin Klein, you talk to football people, and you talk to people around Manhattan, Kansas, and you talk to Elko, and I think that was a sensational hire, and especially to complement a coach like Elko that is on the defensive side of the ball. I think it was a terrific hire. I think people will start realizing that more as the season plays out. And the other one that is we're going to see, I've heard great things about from players and other coaches around the country is Cushing. So Coach Cushing could be that wild card hire that no one's talked about. That if this O-line ends up being just a solid SEC O-line, then I think it really, all that stuff comes into play, that ceiling that we talk about.
So, and one thing I want to give you credit on, people sometimes think you're a sunshine pumper that don't listen to us like on other sites, right?
Yeah.
But you, the last 2 years, were very realistic. Nobody, I think, expected 5-7 2 years ago. No one, right? But you told us some concerns going. I feel like you were higher going into this season than maybe the last 2 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel that. And that doesn't mean that you don't see some potential issues as well. I just think your realistic view of this team is higher than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, as far as the ceiling of it, and less areas of like real concern. I'm not saying there's not areas of concern. If I didn't think that, I'd be saying this team's being disrespected. They're an SEC title contender year one, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying I think there are less areas of concern, and that says a lot to what Elko did through the portal. And the other myth is that there was this mass exodus. And like I said, they lost 2 or 3 guys that they would have liked to have kept. you'd have loved to keep Walter Nolan and Evan Stewart. You'd have 2 more All-SEC picks. But those guys would almost be picked on there. I'm just telling you, they would have been All-SEC, first, second team. You see Nolan.
Yeah.
Evan would too. It's based on their potential. It's based on the fact that they've flashed like next level. That is not based on what they did week to week. Now, I think Mike Elko and his staff probably believe they could have gotten that out of them, and they might have. Oregon might do it. Lane Kiffin might do it. I believe Elko thought he could do that. That's why they did fight to hold on to those guys to a point. And I think that point, you know, there's a – and Lane Kiffin himself dealt with that with Quinshon Judkins. There's a cost-benefit there. You know, there's like, okay, this is getting to be a little more – and there's also a, hey, you're dragging this out. We got to move on with our program and go get guys in the portal element to it too. Everybody has to deal with that. Everybody's got their threshold. Everybody's got different thresholds at different positions. And so at some point, A&M had to tap out of both of those. That doesn't mean, you know, Oregon and Ole Miss are playing in deeper waters in the NIL, because they're actually not. But with certain guys, and especially when you know what you know about them, there's a threshold where you're going, okay, this is an indication that this is going to be a major distraction. And we still want them because they're really good. Imagine Walter Nolan on that D-line right now. And you could have done it. You know, you could have done it. Imagine Evan Stewart locked in and thinking in his head, I got one more year to the NFL. How much different is the conversation today? But not if it's the same Evan Stewart that was here, and not if it's the same Walter Nolan.
Which is why I looked at and we got to hit a break, sorry, but I'll just say this. When I saw Walter on first team All-SEC and not Nick Scordon, and I know that Nick hasn't played a down in the SEC, but I could see both, but I definitely see Nick on that list.
And I think Walt could be really freaking
Heck
good.
Yeah.
He was better than Evan on the field last year. He was more of a factor, had made more of an impact. My bigger thing with that All-SEC team is all those Longhorns on it. One by one individually, I don't have many gripes about them, just knowing the players they are. But also, when you get like 11 guys on those and not one of them's played, they've all played one game against SEC-level opposition, it's kind of a slanted –
yeah.
You know, it's like putting guys in that are freshmen that haven't played much SEC ball, that are sophomores. You know, they played in 4 games last year. Why are they? My only gripe, actually, though, is to have 3 guys on that secondary. And I know Makuba comes from Clemson. They had like 3, if not 4 DBs on those 3 teams. That pass defense last year in the Big 12 ranked like 116th or 118th in the country. And you're just going to pluck 3 or 4 guys on the All-SEC teams. That one kind of drew a little bit of a chuckle from me. None of it matters. What matters is the end of the season.
Right.
So, I mean, A&M better be more represented by 3 guys on the first 3 teams, or it will not. They will not have come close to that ceiling. So I think that changes.
All right, Costa Vida time. Holly and Nick, they run a great shop there in South College Station. Go check them out. And for this year's preseason kickoff, they're going to be having a table there with a couple extra tickets. And I think on the boards, if you haven't seen it, you need to go look for it. But if you want a chance to get 2 tickets at that spot, you can do that. Please post your branch or agency and the years that you serve. 2 names will be chosen from that. Actually, they already announced the winner. So there you go. They're going to have 2 people there. So go check that out, and congratulations to the 2 winners. Also, when you go to Costa Vida, the food is fantastic, right? That's why you go to Costa Vida. You go for the good food, the taste, the ingredients, everything that they do there. And you can eat all day because all the food is great. Doesn't matter what time you go. If you go in the morning, breakfast tacos, and you get your coffee, go at lunch, get your salad potentially, or maybe even your tortilla soup, your quesadillas. At dinner, they have so many great entrees when you go to Costa Vida. You got to go check them out. They are in South College Station, Aggie owned and operated, 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. It's Costa Vida. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Another little talking point that I think has kind of gone under the radar. We talk about A&M's schedule and getting all your hard games at home, right? Which is great. But how about this? For a team that hasn't won on the road in forever.
Yeah.
Nobody you're going to go visit on the road, as of today, is a ranked team. These are not like, look, Florida is going to be better than what people expect from a talent perspective. But you're not going to go to Florida and they're not going to be ranked. You're not going to go to South Carolina and they're not going to.
Florida could be ranked if they beat Miami in the opener. But
yeah, I guess they could.
I don't think they will, but if they do, I mean.
But they get them at home, right? So it's possible.
Miami's not world beaters, yeah.
I don't know. I like Cam Ward a lot.
I do. You know, I heard y'all talking about that too. Yeah, the Pac-12 quarterback play is inflated because the defenses were so bad. But you watch Cam Ward throw the football and like run around like he's the real deal. And I don't know. With NIL, it's always hard to tell. But he would have been interested in coming to A&M and actually sent out feelers. But the Aggies were locked in with Wigman.
They're
and
happy,
feel
as they
good
should
about
be.
it. Yeah. So, no, Miami. Still though, that's a rivalry game. Florida can win that football game. I'm not going to be sold on. And this is coming from a guy who went down there and watched them beat up A&M in the second half. But by the way, they also went on to stink last year.
Yep.
And they lost to Georgia Tech, among other things they did that were bad. So I'm not buying Mario Cristobal yet, not at all. So I'll believe that one when I see it, that he can get them back to actually being good. I mean, respectable is one thing, but you hired that guy to bring Miami, even if you're not recapturing the Schnellenberger, Johnson, Erickson days, you are trying to get them to where they're a playoff contender. I'm not going to believe that till I see it. So,
but do you believe in them more than you believe in Florida?
Yeah. Like I think Miami will win that game, but that wouldn't be some shocking result that shakes up college football.
And if Miami wins that game, as you've mentioned many times,
you get a desperate Florida team. If they lose that game, you probably get a ranked Florida team that's feeling really good, and that stadium will be rocking.
And then Arkansas, not going to be ranked. I'm sorry, they're just not. South Carolina, and then Auburn potentially could be.
Auburn could be, or they could just be a really good team with. They could be a really good team, not really good, but they could be a dangerous team with 3-4 losses by then.
Yeah.
You know, they close with Bama, right? That could be their fourth loss. A&M could be the difference between 7-5 and 8-4. And they're not, so they won't be ranked in that instance, but they could be a team that's dangerous. That is a tough road schedule for the Aggies. It could be a lot tougher. It's tougher than the rankings and names make it look. But you have to like if you popped that schedule and showed it to a Texas or an OU fan, they wouldn't understand. Texas, and you guys, we all talk about how easy a schedule they've gotten dealt for their first year in the SEC, especially when you juxtapose that with what OU's got.
Mm-hmm.
That's also for 2 years, David. And I know next year teams will be different. I get it. But most of them are not going to all of a sudden become great. That's a 2-year thing. And you look, I don't think A&M got dealt the most brutal hand either by any stretch. I've always said that. But OU did. So the entry point of OU and Texas into this league, it's crazy how night and day it is. And it's not 1 year. It's 2. That is a big difference in terms of their adjustment period and how they're going to be able to recruit as they come into this league. It is very significant. And if you want to say, well, you could just buy their way through it with NIL. Well, you don't win enough games, and that support for NIL
goes down.
Like, no matter what program you are, no matter how much history you have. So I think they got dealt as raw a hand as any when you look at their rival that they're coming in with and what one got versus the other. But as far as A&M, that schedule could be a lot tougher.
But it ain't easy.
But their road games are very tricky. And again, people that don't get the Texas is playing Mississippi State at home. You're going to Starkville and the Cowbells. That team is going to be twice as good And that still doesn't make them great.
Right.
And it still doesn't mean you should go there and lose to like an unranked Mississippi State. They will be twice as good at home than they are away. Same thing with South Carolina, who by the way, has stockpiled some quality talent. They got NFL dudes over there under Beamer. And then Florida, you're going to the freaking swamp where they do have real talent. Auburn, late in the year to the Plains, and Jordan Hare, one of the toughest places to play in the SEC where they do have real talent. I heard some of the Texas writers telling me, man, those Auburn guys, those dudes look really good. And I'm like, yeah. Auburn, South Carolina, Kentucky, these teams that aren't as hot, they walk around in there and you go, yeah, these are real cats. And then you see them on Saturdays. It's not just the three that come to media days. They got a lot of dudes.
They got a lot of dudes, yeah.
So that is a pretty daunting road schedule. If you told me right now in those 4 SEC games that they're on the road, if Texas A&M could go 3-1, I'd say Texas A&M. If you told me they were going to go 3-1 in those games, I'd say, let me know how it goes against Notre Dame, because if they win that one, I could see them in the playoff.
All right,
3-1 at home, 3-1 on those road games. Beat Notre Dame, that's a playoff team. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to go 3-1 in those home games, but you're at home against those 4. Like, I think you'd have a shot. So that, to me, and that could include a loss to Notre Dame and win the other 3. But 3-1 on the road, and I'm actually going, okay, if you tell me they did that, then we're about to have an interesting conversation.
More of that on the other side. We got one more segment to go on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. And as a reminder, they are not open on Mondays. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein, you got some stuff for us.
I do. I got a text from Lou and Brian saying Ags defense will be no worse than top 3 in the conference.
Billy?
Maybe. I'm not going to underestimate, but, I mean, do you know all the defenses in the conference when you say that? Because it could be, I mean, right now I'm just thinking just off the rip, Georgia and Bama, and then you can kind of go on
Well,
from
Fowler
there.
came on and said they're really worried about their defense because of the back end.
Yeah, I think, well, and again, that's relative.
Right.
That's relative.
But I feel like
That's
most
compared
teams
to-
in the SEC are complaining about their back end.
Well, because a lot, and that's the portal stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, I see them becoming a top 3 defense in the league? Sure. But every year there's somebody that we sitting here in College Station are underestimating. That could be like, I don't think it'd be a Missouri this year because they lost their DC to LSU, who they liked. But I'm thinking about there's a Missouri. Is it a Tennessee? Is it one of these teams that aren't going to be that good, but they have, good statistical defense? Kentucky. They're putting multiple guys on the first and second team, it seems like, defensively. Who knows? But, yeah, I mean, are they second? Are they fourth? Are they fifth? Are they third? It matters, but what I just want to say is Texas A&M going to have what people think of as a high-end SEC defense? Are they going to have an all-conference caliber quarterback? And are they going to have a solid SEC offensive line? If you can answer me yes to those 3 questions, then we're talking about the potential ceiling. If you can check those 3 boxes, then we're talking about them possibly reaching that ceiling that we talk about.
I'm trying to find this tweet from our friend at SEC Unfiltered, Chris, but I'm not seeing it. But basically, he had Kentucky's record against top teams. I don't know if you saw
it's pitiful.
It was ridiculous.
And that was a big pushback when people who really, ultimately when they tried to push Mark Stoops across the finish line, that was a big part of that was his career SEC record and then his record against those ranked teams. There's another damning record in there, which is Lane Kiffin's record against top 10 teams since arriving in Oxford, which is like 2-16, 2-18, whatever that is. It's pretty brutal. So when you're looking at the Kentuckys and the Ole Misses of the world, when they have the same head coach, then you need to look at them a little more critically. With Steve Sarkisian, you could have done that right up until this year. Now, last year he kind of beat the rap, right?
Yep.
But with Sark, I would say dig deeper, and this is not a metric quite as definitive because it's not like just numbers, but kind of look at the teams he's coached against the last 2 years. Throw out that 5-7 first year.
Yeah.
The last 2 years that have been even in their universe in terms of talent level, and look at his record against those teams. By my standards, like 2-7. And one of those was against maybe the worst OU team in 25 years, Venables' first team. One of those was against, I count them, and I really shouldn't, because that was a horrifically bad OU team, and that record is like 2-7.
Found the stat, 2-28 Kentucky is against teams that finished with a winning record.
So that was such a hard one because you go Kentucky. He took over Kentucky.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, what could he do at A&M? But those numbers versus the salary you were going to have to pay him, that didn't add up. It made no sense. And thank goodness it didn't.
Thank you, Billy.
All right.
All right, we will see you guys mañana.